I want you to know we're going to try to do something very, very different tonight, kind of unprecedented. The reason for this is, for 40 years that I've been here doing public defender work, every election, I get calls from every person I ever knew, who knew them, because nobody knows who to vote for judge. You know more about presidential candidates, you know more about who's running for governor, state house, what have you, and you don't really know anything about these judges, and then the canons really don't let them answer a lot of questions that you may want to know how they would rule. So, a bunch of neighborhood associations, these people got together and they have done an incredible job. I've never seen anything quite like this. And what we're going to be doing tonight is each candidate's going to come in and we're going to separate them race from race so that visually you'll be able to get, because there's 27 candidates, and you are going to get lost when you leave here and you're not going to be able to remember who's who. So we're going to try to visually create a construct so you'll see everybody in that race. Now, after they talk for 90 seconds, I'm going to ask each candidate 1 to 2 questions, probably 2. It's important that you understand this. There is no answer to most of the questions that I'm going to ask. I'm asking questions to give the candidate an opportunity to unzip their chest and reveal their heart in who they are. If I were to ask someone, well, how would you rule on this issue? They can't answer that. But if I ask them about something that we all know is going on in our community, the answer they give you, whether you agree or not, will allow you to evaluate, are they honest? Are they truthful? In my life, I have found that many people that I disagree with are so truthful, I believe what they say, I just disagree with their conclusion. So that's where we're trying to go tonight. I don't know if we're going to get there. No questions I ask should you take as a preference that I have for one candidate over the other. I will tell you this, though, there are several of the races, certain issues have presented themselves which make it important that the public know about it. And so that question may be more pointed, might be even somewhat embarrassing. In the end, I am here for you. I am not here for the candidates. This forum is not for the candidates. This forum is for you, and hopefully together we'll be able to see who we want making decisions in our community. And then the last part before I be quiet is, most of us get worked up about who the president is or who this person is or this issue. And the truth is, those races rarely have an impact on our lives. The people who will be our judges make decisions which dramatically change the arc of people like yourselves' lives. It's not just whether you've been arrested. It could be that you're going through a divorce. It could be a child support or child custody issue. It could be a car accident that happens and now you can't support your family and there's going to be a lawsuit of how are you going to be able to do it. It could be some kind of estate thing or property. The bottom line is, this is about you getting to see who you want, making decisions that affect the lives of thousands and thousands and thousands of people. And with that, I give it back to Michael.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, before we start, did everyone, there's in the back of the room, well, actually outside, there is a judicial debate sheet. And so all the candidates are on here with remarks you can put, and if you like them, if you don't like them, whatever, they're in the back of the room outside. Also, too, another wonderful honored guest came through in the room, the mayor of Pompano Beach, Lamar Fisher. Okay, our first from Group 8, from running for the Broward Court, Corey Cawthorn.
It's Group 9.
Oh, excuse me, Group 9, I do apologize. That is. Mike is yours. Please, by all means.
Hi everyone, my name is Corey Amanda Cawthon. I am one of your Group 9 candidates for County Court this year. I am a lifelong resident of Broward County. I am one of the few native Floridians that you will meet in these judicial races. I grew up here in Broward, and during my time as an attorney, I have focused my practice entirely in the realm of civil litigation. I have done a variety of cases in our county courts, including landlord-tenant disputes, personal injury protection cases, business disputes, you name it, I've probably done it if it's in our county courts. I am running for judge because I want to make a difference in our community through public service. As someone who's from Broward, it gives me great pride to share with you that my campaign has been endorsed by a number of organizations, including the Sun Sentinel. As someone who grew up here, that gives me an immense amount of pride to share with you. Presently in Broward County, the majority of our judges come before you with backgrounds exclusively in criminal litigation. I see a need for more civil litigators on the bench. Over 80% of the cases filed in Broward County are civil cases. And so as someone who has that background experience in civil litigation, one of the only members of this Group 9, I see that I can bring a balance to our bench through my background in civil litigation, and I hope that on August 28th, or before you participate in early voting, you will remember Corey Amanda Cawthon for Group 9. Thank you.
Thank you. The next candidate may have Tana Demery.
On down.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you all today. A little bit about myself. My name is Tanner Channing Demery. I am running for Group 9 in County Court seat. It is an open seat. My legal background essentially encompasses, I currently work with Mr. Finkelstein, County Broward Public Defender's Office. Very proud of that job. Prior to that, I worked in civil litigation, and prior to that, I worked at the State Attorney's Office here in Broward as well. What I bring to the table is having that full breadth of experience. I have perspective. I've worked across the lines. I'm the only one that's done both civil and criminal work in this particular group. The only one in the group that has extensive trial experience. Tried more cases than both my opponents combined. I actually was a little late today because I'm just coming out of a trial here in Broward. So it is what I do day in and day out, and I think what's most important about my background and experience and why I'm the most qualified for Group 9 is because I spend every single day of the week in a courtroom. You pick up things, you pick up the certain dynamic that evolves and occurs while you're in court. You do that from experience. You can't read about it, you can't learn about it, you can't talk about it, you gotta experience it. And that's what I do, and I've been doing that for over a decade on both sides of the aisle. So I think it's very important because I've had the opportunity to see the good, I've seen the not so good, and I've seen the downright bad. And I believe I have the skill set now that I've picked up on over the years to run an efficient courtroom, but more importantly, to treat everyone, no matter what, with fairness, dignity, and compassion. Thank you.
Ms. Lockwood may have Leonor Greller.
Greller.
On down.
Thank you. Price is right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Leonor Greller, and I am running for Broward County Court Group 9, nonpartisan. We're here tonight, and I hope that you'll take real advantage of our debates and vote early. But to tell you a little bit about myself, I came to Florida in 2008. My husband had died, and my family said, come to Florida. And I said, but I'll have to start all over again. I have 23 years as a lawyer in New York State. And they said, don't worry about it, come. And so at the age of 55, I took the Florida bar and I passed it. And I have become a mediator, an arbitrator, and a special master, court appointed by agreement of the parties. As a result of that, today I do that full time. So I'm not in the court every day because parties and the evidence is before me. I make the decisions as an arbitrator. My reports are in Jacksonville and Tampa, and they have made it into courtrooms across Florida. And my arbitration opinion, my first arbitration opinion, is going to be published in Florida Law Weekly in September. I'm really very proud to be here in Florida, serving the Broward community. I'm also a moot court teacher. I go to competitions and I help students. I'm a member of the Broward County Bar Association, the Bench and Bar Committee. As the secretary for the last 3 years, it is the only committee that is required to be invited to go. So I hope that you'll be Stella and vote Greller. And also go to grellerforjudge.com and look at my CV and everything else. Thank you.
All right, and I'll go in order. Corey, I was reading today, it's reported, and there's a big debate whether Mark Twain said it, but the comment was, when I was 14, I couldn't believe how ignorant my father was. When I was 21, I couldn't believe what he had learned in 7 years. The point is, I believe you're 31 years old. I know that for most people, as they get older, they change. Life has a way of throwing things at you, whether it's marriage, children, sickness, etc. Can you make us feel comfortable that at your young age, you should be sitting in judgment of other human beings' lives?
Howard, thank you for the question, and I will throw another quote your way to compete with Mark Twain. I believe it was the Sun Sentinel editorial board that said, at 31, Corey Coffin is the most qualified candidate of the Group 9 candidates in this race. It's true I'm 31. I am the youngest candidate in all of the judicial races this year. That doesn't scare me, and I hope it doesn't scare you. One of my legal mentors and one of the most beloved judges in Broward County, Judge Tom Lynch, was only 33 years old when he was elected to our Broward County Court in the 80s. He went on to serve as a judge in Broward for over 33 years. That's someone that I look to with great respect, and that is someone that I hope to reflect his career in my own. I think that when it comes to a judge, the ingredients to make up a good judge don't come down to a number or an age. The importance when it comes to what makes up a good judge is their background, it's their temperament, and how they carry out their duties. You can look to judges who are in their 60s and people may not be happy with them. I don't think that when you discuss with someone who makes up a good judge, it's not, are they 35, are they 45, are they 65? It's what type of a temperament do they have? How do they treat people that come before them in their courtrooms? How do they deal with their attorneys and the pro se parties that are before them? How is it that they serve as a member of the judiciary on our bench? That's what makes up a good judge. That's something that I am mindful of, and I understand the weight and importance of that when it comes to fulfilling this role.
Second question for you is, you mentioned that you want to have a career in public service. I've always found it humorous. It's only amongst lawyers that we use the term public service when we talk about jobs that pay $150,000 for doing that. My question to you is, tell me about the public service that you have done outside the legal profession.
Well, Howard, I mentioned before that I am a lifelong resident of Broward County. When I say that I'm proud of this community and I'm proud to call it my home, it's not just about speaking those words. We have to want to give back to and make our community a better place. I am a lifelong resident not just of Broward, but of the city of Plantation, and I'm involved in one of the women's clubs in Plantation. We do a lot of fundraising for the Make-A-Wish Foundation, and we raise money for local student scholarships. My group is in charge of, I'm not sure if anyone in this room is familiar with it because we're Fort Lauderdale residents, but we run the annual Art in the Park event in Plantation, and all of the proceeds from that event go toward local student scholarships and student groups in our local public schools. So it's something that's important to me. We can't just say that we are members of the community. We have to actually give back to the community. I know that we've discussed before, the family that I come from is made up of military veterans and law enforcement officers, and those are careers that are truly dedicated to public service. So when it comes to the way that I was raised, I know the importance of wanting to make a difference in our community and taking action to make that difference.
Tanner, you've been a prosecutor and a public defender. The last few years, there's been a big issue about body cams and police officers.
I'm not asking how you would rule on admissibility. My question to you is, how do you think body cams will change the perception of public, police? Will it have an impact? Will it have no impact? And what do you hope comes from it?
I think from having the unique advantage of during the onslaught of when body cameras kind of came into play, I was the chief prosecutor down in the Florida Keys for a time. And I remember a lot of the officers were scared. A lot of the officers were intimidated because they knew now there was a certain level, a higher level of accountability and need for precision and doing the right thing and following protocol. And now, as a public defender here in Broward, obviously the hope and desire, and I think it's good for everyone, is accountability above all else. And we've seen it already. We've seen the fact that, gone are the days where someone can just say X, Y, and Z, and someone is held to that and has no retort. They have no rebuttal based on who they are in life. They're stationed in life because someone said X, Y, and Z happens to them. And now, with technology such as this, I think it definitely evens the score and certainly keeps people honest. There's definitely many very hardworking law enforcement that absolutely do everything that they're supposed to do. But I think for those few folks that are on the margins, and we have them in every type of profession, we can all agree on that, I think it is very helpful because at the end of the day, people's liberty are at stake. These are people that I represent that could be going to prison. These are people that could be incarcerated. These are major issues for folks. So I think the accountability that body cameras bring to the fold, I think is a great thing. I think it's good for everyone. It keeps people honest. It keeps people doing their work the way they should be. And it also flips to the other side, The officers have their commentary about the people they interact with. And on the flip side of that, you get to see what actually happened. So I think my belief is that it's a good thing and it holds everyone accountable on both sides.
Second question for you. I looked on your website and you grew up down here with not including any groups you may have donated money to. Tell me what groups in the community you have donated your time and what you've done for them and how those groups have changed you.
Well, as a South Florida native, and again, as you heard, I spent time down in the Florida Keys, so I'm a water baby. I love boating, I love diving, I love the beach. I have fond memories as a young kid growing up and being taken down to Dania Beach and surfing by the pier. I remember walking the boardwalk down in Hollywood. These were all things I did with my mom. My mom taught me how to surf, of all people. And so I've always had a natural inclination to be fond of the beach. So a lot of the activities that I get involved with have to do with beach cleanups, conservation, that sort of thing, with regard to anything that has to do with the ocean. Additionally, I think for me, it's brought me a sense of we have a very valuable resource here, and this is just me talking because, again, this is something that's near and dear to my heart. Being brought up here on the coast, and Lebanon truly is seeing the problems that we see, and of course now we see issues involving all the terrible pollution and everything else that's going on. So it's something near and dear to my heart, and I think we're starting to finally see some awareness, and we're finally starting to see some people paying attention that this is a valuable resource. And it's taught me that these things could disappear, and we take a lot of things for granted, including this beautiful environment we all live in. And unfortunately, not everyone feels that way. So I'm glad to be involved with anything that helps clean up our resources and helps the marine life here in our community. So those are some of the things I've seen.
Leonor, this is the first time you run for office.
Yes, it is.
And until someone runs for office, they don't really have a sense of how large Broward County is.
That is true.
When you go from the northwest to the southeast or going the other direction, you not only find millions of people, you also find different groups of people, different ethnicities, different religions, a very, very diverse community. My question to you is, in the time that you have spent going back and forth over this community, tell me what you've learned that's changed you.
Well, the first thing I've learned is that Broward is a very big county. And it's coming out of New York and having worked for the mayor's office from when I was 16 until I was 22, and having worked at the Citizens Committee for New York City, which was all of New York City and self-help conferences and volunteers in service to America, I realized that here we have 31 separate cities. So I taught at a college in New York City, at New York University, City College of New York, which had 45,000 students. 45,000 students is almost as big as a Coconut Creek, where I'm homesteaded. So I have learned that there is a diverse population here. There's 31 cities. There are 30, that means there are 4 commissioners, at least for each one. There are partisan committees. There are HOAs. There are people that allow you to put up lawn signs, and then you need a permit, even on private property, to put up lawn signs in other communities. But mainly, and one of the reasons, by the way, my entire family lives in Boca, and I didn't want to live in Boca because I like Broward. Se habla español. Entonces, me gusta mucho la diversidad de cualidad de gente. And so for me, I could only live in Broward. So I'm thrilled. I go to a spiritual place each Sunday, which is extraordinary diverse population. I love to go into Walmart and help people that don't speak Spanish, that don't speak English, to help them out. Those are the kinds of things I do. This is a wonderful city, and last week I was in Sunrise Lakes and I saw an amazing city center. So this has really opened my eyes. Broward's a good place to live. There's my American flag. Thank you.
The second question is, Broward is a great place to live, but depending upon where you go in Broward and you ask them, you will get 2 very different answers on the state of justice in Broward County. In many communities, especially those people of color who are poor, they do not believe they get a fair shake when they go into that Broward County courthouse. I want to know in your travels whether or not you've come to understand why so many people would think that what goes on in that courthouse is so wrong.
I do have an understanding of that, and I also know that at the beginning of this, we said the Pledge of Allegiance, and we said the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag and justice for all. And I truly believe that justice must be done for all. This isn't, I understand that people can believe that they're not getting a fair share, but people on both sides of the fence think they're not getting a fair share. And the fact is that people are people. And the thing that we need to do, even on the bench, is make certain that everyone has dignity and everyone gets a fair share. When I worked in New York City, it was early on, when I was there at City University of New York, the Rodney King case was there. I taught at a college that had people that came from, I used to say, Antigua to Zimbabwe. We are a nation of cultures, and we are a nation that requires justice for everyone who comes into our courtroom. That means that if you're Lubavitch, or if you are wearing a shawl, or if you are black, or whatever you are, you deserve justice for a person first.
Thank you all. And those are the candidates in that race.